And then Sama-drishte, because I see the equality. That's Sama-darshana, right? This Bhagavad Gita speaks a lot about Sama-darshana, the equal vision.
Even vision, yeah.
Yeah.
Like same, like dristi in yoga, we know dristi.
Yes.
And sama, like the word samadhi, like the word same. There's a sameness in your vision. And then sarva sukha, all happiness.
So that person gets sarva sukha dishaha. They see happiness in all directions. That's a good point. In other words, there's a sameness, a oneness on both levels. If I can see everyone on a level of oneness, on the spiritual level, in other words, if I can see past the bodies, which are always different, and relate to people on the basis of the soul, which is the same, then in my own life, all my different circumstances, which may appear very different, I can also see them as the same, right? Sunny day, rainy day, I see it as the same. I'm happy either way. Praise, or honor, dishonor, I can see them both the same. If I can see the oneness in people and treat them that way, then I'll be able to see a oneness in all my circumstances and be happy under any circumstance. So this is deep, and this is real, and this is the real code to happiness. It's not, let go of all. The only thing preventing, you know what that's saying, that kind of pleasure code talk, Raghunath? Yeah. It's saying you've been trying to indulge in the material world, but you're not happy. And the reason you're not happy is because people, religions, and other authority figures in your life have placed some sense of guilt in you. That's why you're not happy.
You got to release your guilt.
Yeah.
That's like a recipe for like full-on addiction. Try to indulge through your senses as much as you can. Good luck with that.
Yeah. This is saying that that's not why you're not happy. It's because you're going down a path of emptiness.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Live from Super Soul Farm, this is Wisdom of the Sages, a daily spiritual podcast with your host, Raghunath, and co-host and senior educator at the Bhakti Center in New York City, Kaustubha Das. It is Tuesday, May 13, 2025. This is episode 1599. Welcome to the show. Welcome to the show, everybody. It's Tuesday. What's up, Mary? You got some announcements for us?
Good morning.
What's going on in Mare world?
Nothing much, a lot of gardening.
Yeah, we are practicing the art of, what's it called that I do?
Shao Shugiban.
Shao Shugiban. Kaustubha, have you heard of that?
I don't think so.
Look it up.
It's torching wood planks.
Torching wood planks to seal the wood from
torching them.
Living
That's
invader.
A little concerning. What kind of torch are you running around with?
I found a cool lumber yard around here.
Your voice to text changed it to torturing wood planks also.
It's probably torturing in a way. Yeah, you torch them and it seals them. It's a Japanese way of sealing wood without all that formaldehyde and the pressure-treated stuff.
And you're doing it yourself?
Yeah, I'm doing it myself. What do you think of that?
With what kind of torch?
With a blowtorch. The big
blowtorch.
The big blowtorch. Yeah.
Careful.
Okay. You mean I can't catch the world on fire?
I think there's all kind of things you could catch on fire with blowtorch. There goes
a big
sheep.
Blowtorch. But I'm going to do our bridge like that. I'm going to do the Super Soul sign like that.
Okay.
Seal it all up. It looks beautiful too.
Great.
Yeah,
and it's a very natural way of sealing the wood.
Okay.
All right. That's what we're up to.
Did Mayor have any announcements?
Oh, was that the announcement?
If you want to check out our Sage community platform, we have lots of new classes and information there. And you can contribute to our work. You can just go to wisdomofthesages.com and become a supporting Sage community platform member.
Support us.
Yeah. So I know Kaustubha's dropped a bunch of new classes there from his time in Rishikesh and at Govardhan Eco Village. And Raghu's got his Sweet Baby Krishnas all posted there. And we'll do some more soon.
Okay.
Looking forward to it. Thank you for all your support. Those who are already in there supporting, we don't give you enough appreciation. Thank you so much. Super duper grateful for making this boat floating We love Wisdom of Sages. We love what we're doing. And let's get on with our nugget for the day, sir.
Okay.
You want me to read the nugget?
Yes, I do. That's your new job.
Okay.
You're Nugget Noth, Lord of the Nuggets.
This is from Jack Cornfield.
Okay.
In the end, just three things matter: how well we have lived, how well we have loved, how well we have learned to let go.
How well we have lived, how well we have loved. This is like a toast. How well we have lived, to all we have loved, and to all that we will let go. That is good. What do you think of that, Mr. Kaustubha?
What do I think of that quote?
You like it?
I do like it. I think it's he was an interesting person. I don't know all that much about him, Jack Cornfield. But from what I understand, when he graduated, he studied Asian studies at Dartmouth College, like back in the late 60s.
Mm.
And of course, that was a time when people were, becoming a lot of disillusionment about, American dream, whatever. I don't know, the war, all of that stuff. Any case, he went to Thailand, just to go deeper into these spiritual studies, and that's where he got into like this Theravada Buddhism.
Mm.
And so I think part of his skill is just like taking a lot of Buddhist concepts and making them, understandable. And I think, he's kind of doing that in this quote. It's we hear in whether it be in Buddhism or whether it be in Advaita Vedanta or Vedanta in general, a lot about letting go. And here he's tying these other things into it, particularly, he says how one's lived and how well one's loved and how well one's let go. And I think, in one sense, it's the first one is really just a combination of the other two, right? How well you've lived, it can be summed up by how well you've loved and how well you've let go.
Mm.
And in Bhakti, we say, if you actually learn to love, you let go very well. You let go very easily. That's one of the most fundamental and really important things to understand about Bhakti, is the idea that when you have love for Krishna, when you have Krishna prema, within that circle of love is already detachment, right? If you're, just like we see on a material level, if we fall in love with someone, when we fall deeply in love with someone, a lot of the things that were important to us before become unimportant. We can let go. Commonly, it's like, I'm in love with this person, and then it gets broken and I'm heartbroken. I fall in love with another person. I've forgotten about the previous one, because the other person is now dominating my thoughts, and fulfilling my desires. The idea is that when Krishna dominates your thoughts and when love for Krishna has fulfilled you spiritually, then naturally you're letting go of all your material attachments. And so how well one loves and how well one lets go, we see, we see you let go naturally. But I think this is important, when we're looking at the story that we're reading in Bhagavatam. We have this king Yayati. He's got a lot of material desires, and how well we treat other people becomes essential. That and maybe we can read a little from it today, but that 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, where Krishna says, what makes one dear to him?
Yeah, very cool part of the Bhagavad Gita. You want to know how to become dear to God? 12 chapters there for you.
12th chapter,
There's a bunch of really beautiful verses. Like, you can actually become more, because God is a real person. You can actually do things that please him, that make him more dear to you. And those things are really, they're sort of interesting. Some things you might already be doing, and some things like, I got to work on this. I don't do this that much. It's nice. It's like when you have a lover, you find out what's your love language? What's Krishna's love language? That's like very, very interesting, right?
Yeah, it's text 13 through 20 in the 12th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita. And just like take this one, for instance. This is text 15. One by whom no one is put into difficulty, and who is not disturbed by anyone, who is equipoised in happiness and distress, fear and anxiety, that person is very dear to me.
Read that again. This is really good.
And think about like when Jack Cornfield is saying like how well you've lived, how well you've loved. One by whom no one is put into difficulty, right? I move through this world so gently, right? That like I'm not creating pain for others or disturbance for others, and maybe I'm a vegetarian and a vegan and this, that, and but I make I make it my point to cause anxiety and pain for others,
Sure.
it's very possible. So here saying one by whom no one is put into difficulty and who is not disturbed by anyone. Can you move from in a place that even in conflict, you do it with respect and love, who is
Even in,
equipoised.
that's great. Even in
Yeah.
conflict, you do it with respect and love.
Yeah. That's
It's like you can
something.
have every other detail of your, your Bhakti formula, but if you don't have that gentleness to other people, even
Yeah.
people who are causing you pain,
Yeah.
you've missed the keystone that's holding this whole arc together.
Yeah. I just somehow the other day I started to investigate. One day on the show we talked about this guy. He's like a black musician somewhere down in the South, maybe Tennessee or something. I'm not sure. And somehow he got interested in the Ku Klux Klan.
Oh yeah,
He
this
was
guy's
like he was
interesting.
curious about it. Like why do these people hate me so much? Like I've never done anything to them. But rather than like become like a violent warrior against it, he just said, "Let me get to know these people," you know. And
Right.
so he just started. I'm
You started
actually
building relationships with them.
Daryl
exactly.
Davis was his name,
What's
Prabhu.
that, Mary?
Daryl
Say it again.
Daryl
Davis.
Davis.
Errol Davis. I'd heard this story and we had talked about it on the show, but I said, what, is this true or is this just some urban legend or something like that? And I began to investigate it, and Daryl Davis, right? Is that what
Yeah.
you said, Mary? Daryl?
Yeah.
Yeah. That he convinced over 200 former Ku Klux Klan members to walk away from the organization. And he did it just by directly engaging with them, like in a friendly way. Like, let me understand you. Like, can you tell me why you feel the way that you do?
Hmm.
And I'd imagine they said, well, it's not like I'm a hateful person, but there's this and there's that,
Right.
and then the conversation, just developed, and he developed really close relationships with these Klan members, and it was like the head of the Klan in some like this the head of like the Maryland Ku Klux Klan or something like that.
Right.
Just that was the first person he connected with, and that person took their robes and everything and they gave it to him, said, okay, I'm giving this up and I'm giving you my Ku Klux Klan robes. you know it's th- how we approach our activism in this world
Hmm.
says a lot about the state of our heart.
Yeah. Yeah.
Am I in this because of the cause and I really want to affect real change, or am I in it because there's something within me
Hmm.
that has a sense of animosity and a lot of our motives are mixed in life.
Yeah.
In general.
It's not like it's one, but
Yeah,
when it comes off self-righteous, arrogant, looking to shame people into changing, we
yeah,
saw a lot of this immediately after George Floyd. It was mixed with, man, there needs to be justice, and it was mixed with a sick type of ego that was trying to shame, cancel, and hate just ordinary people.
mm,
Why didn't you post a black square on your Instagram page? How dare you? It's like, what are you talking about? Like, I didn't know that we were supposed to do that. People were trying to shame me. You're an influential person. You didn't post a black square. I was like, I didn't know I was supposed to. I didn't get that memo, the black square
I
memo.
didn't wear the ribbon.
I
Why did you
didn't
not?
wear it. Yes, yes. So when we try to when we try to shame people into changing, it doesn't work. That's not where, what's his name? Dan Davis?
Daryl.
Daryl Davis.
Daryl
That's
Davis.
not where he came from.
Yeah,
He came from a part of heart connection, not leading with ego, trying to seek first to understand before being understood.
yeah,
And it's
yeah,
truthfully,
right.
it is a peace formula. And and if you really want to persuade someone, Bhagavatam has a way. And that's where these stories that we're reading on a regular basis are so powerful, right? Again and again, as we read through this Bhagavatam, we've been reading through it since 2020, January 1st. You got these heroes, these leaders, these kings, oftentimes, and they show us this arc. They live a dharmic life. they serve. They enjoy the material world. They struggle. They get tripped up. They don't get what they want. They're frustrated. And then they don't cling. They learn not how to cling. And they learn how to make these internal auto adjustments inside. And they set this archetype, or they almost like lay down a map like Lewis and Clark for us to, how can we cross over this ocean of material existence?
Yeah.
And again and again, we're reading another story. And now this particular king, and I love how it's always like a great king, a powerful person. Because when I look at my own life, I'm like, well, I'm not that powerful. But wait a second, this
You
guy.
have your kingdom.
Well, everyone's got their kingdom.
Yeah.
But sometimes we think, well, this guy is so rich, or this guy is so loaded, or this guy's, so elite. This guy's in the 1%. They don't suffer like we suffer. I got news for you, the world. Everybody suffers. No one gets a pass from suffering. No one gets a pass from heartbreak, from betrayal, from backbiting, from revenge and spite. All these emotions plague the heart until you learn the art of how to get over them. Even that 1%, the people that you really have it all together, they experience loss. They experience loss of loved ones. They're not above you. They're feeling the same amount of emotions that you are in different ways. They have fear. They have anxiety. Sometimes it might be more exacerbated than yours. You're like, well, how? Well, they have more to lose sometimes. Their reputation's on the line sometimes. They're more humiliated, yeah, for sure. Celebrities, they publicly humiliated sometimes in front of millions. Sometimes I'll get humiliated in front of 3 people. They'll get humiliated in the cover of newspapers or magazines. So it's not like they get a pass. So we go through these quotes, historical celebrities, kings, queens, king of the elephants, Gajendra, stuff like that. And then we show them, and now they're experiencing loss. What are they doing with that? And how do they overcome it? Like,
Right.
what is the win for these people?
We get to see that here with the Yati. Now that all developed, we got to see it kind of at the end of the last chapter, and again, this connection between how well we live and how we're able to let go. His good fortune was he was within that Vedic culture. So although as a king he had the ability to enjoy materially, there's also part of and even that was within the boundaries of his dharma, right? Within the boundaries of his ethical codes. But he got carried away in it for sure, but we saw at the end of the last chapter how he began to serve the brahmanas. Even though he was fulfilling his material desires, he was still feeling empty. No matter how much he kept filling it, he felt empty. He turned toward the brahmanas, to the wise spiritual people, and he began to serve them. And it was through that he's developed some clarity. I need to focus on the eternal. I need to start to turn my gaze, more towards what's real, what's eternal, and not living this dream of material enjoyment. And so we see that, if we are ruled by our material desires, it's hard to live well. It's hard to love well. It's like we won't be able to carry out, like what Krishna's saying there in the Gita, where one who by one whom puts no one into difficulty. We will put people into difficulty to fulfill our own desires, even people that we love and we care about. Look at King Yati, right? Devayani was so central to him. This one person in his life was so central. Why? Well, she was so beautiful. She was able, and so charming, and was so sexually alluring to him, right? That he was willing to harm others. Who? His own sons, right? He goes to his own sons. This is like addiction kind of behavior. It's like that's why you have to go back and apologize to everyone. It's one of those steps, right? In the 12 steps.
Make amends.
Yeah, because
you got to make an amends to his son. Remember when I told you to take my old age?
I'm really sorry
for that. I'm really sorry.
Yeah.
I know, I'm young and now you're old.
Yeah. Yeah, if he were, he's an addict, and essentially in this chapter that we're going to read today, he's saying, "My name is King Yayati, and I'm a sex addict." And
Hi, my name's Yayati.
I was so addicted to sex that I went to my own sons, who I love dearly, and I asked them to take my old age so that I could just continue enjoying sexually, even when I had been enjoying sexually like crazy for a long time. That's how low I stooped. You know. And I even accepted. Puru said, "Okay, you can have my youth, and I'll become
Puru's like,
whatever
hi,
you
my
want."
name is Puru, and I have a little resentment in my heart towards my dad.
But he didn't
Maybe-
somehow, right?
I
Puru
know he
wasn't like
didn't. He
that.
didn't have to go to those 12-step
Yeah,
meetings.
yeah. So bhakti is so amazing. Like other paths of Vedanta, they're going to talk a lot about letting go. Um, in bhakti, the idea is you learn to love. That becomes the central focus.
Mm,
You practice selfless love, and when you practice selfless love, you let go. Again, the nugget said how well we let go. You learn to let go. You're perfectly gracefully. It just comes along with it because you've learned true selflessness, which is ultimately learned through love.
mm.
So we
Yeah,
got a
it's
new
interesting,
chapter.
huh? If the bhakti is just such an interesting path. It
Yeah,
teaches you how to be in it, but not of it. It teaches you
yeah,
how to be in this world with all the accoutrements of success, of wealth, of a kingdom, of a home, of a car, of a vehicle, of a wife, a bunch of children. You can have it all, but you have to understand you can't possess, you can't own, you can't control. You got to love and you got to be detached.
right.
What a tightrope to walk. You
Yep.
can have it. It's almost like I can hold it all, but you got to walk on that tightrope of loving and being detached at the same time, and cultivating knowledge while we're doing it. Um, uh, s- yeah. What good is renunciation? Anyway, I
If
have to
there's
move
no
on.
love,
Well, what good is that's a whole nother thing. If there's no, yeah, or if you renounce the world, but internally you stay attached. If your mind is attached,
sure, sure.
right?
But there's that
Or if you're
statement.
longing for the things, oh man, I wish I had that. I wish I had that. It's a way to work with what we got, work with our attachments, and through our lifetime slowly realize these hard, heavy truths of life, which is I'm not the possessor, I'm not the controller, I'm not the owner of anything, not even my own body. What to speak of my children, family, home, etc.
So true, Raghunath. So true.
All right, let's get into the Bhagavatam, sir.
New chapter.
It's a new chapter. Narayanam namaskritya naram chaiva narottamam devim saraswatim vyasam tato jayam dirayat. Before starting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is our very means of conquest, one should offer respectful obeisances to the Supreme Lord Narayan, unto Narayan Rishi, the supermost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and to Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayeshu badreshu nityam bhagavat sevaya bhagavati uttama bhaktir bhavati naishtiki. By regular attendance in classes on the Bhagavatam and by rendering service to the pure devotees, all that is troublesome to our hearts will become eradicated, and loving service to the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, will be established as an irrevocable fact. Om Agyanat Timurandasya Gyananjana Salakaya Chakshurunmidatam Nena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha. I was born in the darkness of ignorance. My teachers are opening my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge. I offer my obeisances at their lotus feet. Reading from the Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 9, Chapter 19. King Yayati achieves liberation. How did
Okay.
he do it? After living that lifestyle, how did he do it?
Well, this we're going to jump a little forward in this chapter because he tells the story that we just read. But what he does is he sits down with his wife Devyani. We ended the last chapter and it was saying that he was beginning it started with his serving the brahmanas, right? And with their instructions, beginning to perform sacrifice to please Vishnu. So he started to bring feeling an emptiness through his material life, through his sex addiction, quite frankly, right?
Mhm.
He he began to focus on the eternal. He began to focus on Vishnu who's within the heart of everybody. He begins, you can imagine when you start to cultivate, when you're living with people like deeply spiritual brahmanas, people that live simple lives, that have deep spiritual knowledge, and that live it through all their words and their action. He's saying they see, even they're looking at me, this sex addicted guy, but they're looking at me, they're looking at my soul. They're looking past my externals, even past my warped mind, and they're relating to me as a soul. And look how happy they are. Look how peaceful they are. I need to be more like that. That's the birth. That's where it starts. And so he's followed that path for some time, and he comes to the stage that we're reading about today, where he sits down with his wife and he tells a story which basically is the story of the two of them. But he tells it as if they're both goats, right? He says this one goat found another goat down in the well, pulled the other goat out, fell in love with her, just started engaging with sex like her, like a crazy sex addicted goat. And then one day the he goat, has sex with another goat. The first she goat gets angry, goes to her father,
The old goat analogy.
Yeah, and he describes how that he goat gets like basically castrated, by the father of the first goat. He tells her, and you can imagine she's sitting there like, okay, I get it. We're these, a goat in India. I know that there's this one Bengali saying that there's nothing.
Nothing a goat won't eat, and nothing a fool won't say.
That's right. So like goats are seen like, not the highest level creatures. You see them, they will just eat anything, so like they look pretty comical
They
and
look a
their
little
habits are pretty
comical.
low.
Yeah, they do.
Yeah.
And
And
you know
so
what? They're a little pushy. You know what I mean?
pushy.
They're like salesmen. They're like in your face all the time, goats, and they'll eat. I've had goats like climb in my truck, like climb in the front seats. They'll start eating things on the dashboard. It's like, get out of here.
Where do you run into goats in your truck?
Well, some people up here have goats.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, they're pushy and they want to eat everything.
Yeah.
And
So,
they'll
so
indiscriminately put anything in their mouth.
right. So he's saying like that's who we are. I'm this comical guy that's been just chasing his desires, and so he's saying, you know what? We need to let go of all that. We need to stop living on this animal level and really take advantage of what the human life is meant for self-realization. So he tells that little story to Devyani, and then let's pick up on text 12.
Oh, my dear wife with beautiful eyebrows. Is he talking to the goat or to her now?
To her.
Okay, all right. We're out of the goat analogy.
Yeah.
Okay. I'm exactly like that he goat, for I am so poor in intelligence that I am captivated by your beauty and have forgotten the real task of self-realization. It's almost like sometimes people have to go through that illusion to realize it's an illusion. Like, yep, I was in it, and now I'm getting out of it.
The dharma of married life and the dharma for him of king life, right? Its boundaries are broad enough to include pursuing sense gratification. And so, as you're saying, because for many people, practically for everyone on one level or another, they do have to go through the process of enjoying and suffering to come to deeper spiritual. It's one thing if you cultivate it deeply in your previous life, you may not. But for most people, to one degree or another, now with the Yati, he had to go deep into it, and before he begins to realize, what am I doing?
A person who is lusty cannot satisfy his mind even if he has enough of everything in this world, including rice.
Like no matter how much rice you have.
Really?
But this is the measure of wealth in right? It's not Bitcoin or just
well,
a
because
bank
rice
account.
is practical. If there's a what's it called, a revolution, apocalypse, supply chain breakdown, it's going to be who's got
Well,
rice.
I know you like to see things through the lens of survivalism.
Well, it's going to get to that. Everybody in New York City, you're going to be running across the
your
George
rice.
Washington Bridge for your life with sticks and axes fighting over rice.
But I think essentially what he's saying, he's going to say rice, barley, food grains, gold, animals, and women, right? Like this is like wealth and enjoyment, right?
Right.
So
Yeah.
so that would be wealth, food, grains,
Right.
and gold and
Right.
animals, particularly cows, they produce all the dairy and
Well, this is
they have the
also,
manpower.
in every other time, this is what we steal from when
Yeah.
invaders go into a, a, a
This is
kingdom.
what yeah, this is what you
You're
try to
stealing.
accumulate.
This is what you're stealing.
Yeah. So he's saying no matter how much you have of all those of wealth, of prosperity, material prosperity, um, nothing can satisfy that person. Which
Mhm.
goes, that goes back to of course the that verse we like to quote a lot, which we had earlier, which was what is it again? All that there is within the universe to satisfy the senses
Yeah.
cannot satisfy one whose senses are uncontrolled.
Mhm.
Yeah. And he goes further into this analogy.
It's such a great thing to meditate on. All right. As supplying butter to a fire does not diminish the fire, but instead increases it more and more. The endeavor to stop lusty desires, right?
Yeah,
Again, we're using lust not just with sex, it's just desires,
sure.
or uncontrollable desires. By continual enjoyment can never be successful. In fact, one must voluntarily cease from material desires. So here's the two things you can do with material desires is either just like I don't go there, or go deeply in there until you become repulsed by them. Because eventually you'll be like, this is not giving. If you've been cultivating some knowledge, you'll realize, yep, it's true. It didn't give me what I wanted. And some of us have gotten to this realization either by indulgence or by just like trusting higher authority. It's not going to give me what I want. I can see that happening. Um, and
Yeah,
you can indulge in them. You're just gonna have to suffer the consequences from it.
but it'll never be fulfilled. And you won't find happiness. You'll always find emptiness.
I know. And again, these people have pushed this idea as nope, there's unlimited enjoyment. You just got to allow
The
yourself,
pleasure
let go
codes.
of the shackles of religion and rules and traditions that have hold you back from experiencing the real joy. Come on, people.
You know what we're going to get to now, Raghunath?
What?
Is the true pleasure codes, right? People preach that, you just need to tap into the pleasure codes. Just let go of all of the mental programming that's been forced upon you and, enjoy sex, enjoy money. There's nothing wrong. In one sense, there's nothing wrong with that. That's a fact. But when it's done with selfishness,
Well, once
it's,
you
it's,
want
it's
to
the cause of
enjoy,
suffering.
once
Yeah.
you want to the degree you want to enjoy, it's sort of me first. How do I get my enjoyment?
Yeah.
It's
And
sort of wired with my enjoyment in mind.
with that selfish material enjoyment.
Yeah.
Now, if you want the real pleasure codes, the true pleasure codes,
Please tell us the pleasure
text
codes.
15.
When a man is non-envious and does not desire ill fortune for anyone, there you go. They're equipoised. Are you saying that's the pleasure code? For such a person, all directions appear happy.
There you go. Right. This is the key to happiness here. This is something we need to learn and we need to live. This is all the story. The whole last chapter was kind of like, again, it was like a lot of craziness. Fighting and throwing people down wells and sex and angry sages, cursed. All of these things were getting thrown out there. But they're there to frame this message that as we approach the 10th canto to hear about Krishna's pastimes, in order to be prepared to fully understand them, in order, we're given this, here's how a wise person moves through life, right? And here's how you actually find happiness and satisfaction. As long as you're chasing satisfaction through the material things, you're turning your back to Krishna. And it's designed in such a way to get you to turn again to Krishna. And so what it'll do is it'll cause you suffering. Even if you get the enjoyment you're looking for, it's going to cause you pain and suffering. No matter how much you talk about pleasure codes or this, it's not that these rules and regulations are just there to torture you, oppress you. No, they're meant to help you understand that by turning back, that selfishness will never satisfy. And by turning back, turning your face back to God, you can actually experience true happiness. So here it's saying, if you're not envious of everyone, and again, envy is, Prabhupada's translation of envy, is commonly referring to hostility. A person who has no hostility and does not desire ill fortune for anyone, that person is equipoised. It doesn't matter who they meet. They won't be disturbed by them, and they won't disturb them, And for that person, and only for that person, all directions appear happy, right? Wherever I may go, whatever circumstance I may find myself in, I can find happiness when I see the soul of every living being. Again, for Yayati, Devayani became like elevated to a position beyond how he saw other people. Why? Because of her beauty, right? If he pulled her out of the well, but she wasn't so attractive, his whole life wouldn't have changed the way that it did, right? And but she, because of her physical beauty and her charm, she became more important than anyone to him, even his own sons, right? And so, and that caused him so much suffering and so much pain and so much embarrassment, so much humiliation and so on. But if he could have taken her out of that well, yes, she's very beautiful, but that's just the body she's temporarily in right now. It's not meant for my enjoyment, right? She's a spark of spirit, just like me. She's in a woman's body right now, but that soul has been a woman, a man. Right now is young and beautiful. Very soon, old and decrepit, and wrinkled, But the soul inside is who I'm relating to. That person can actually experience true happiness. Otherwise, we're on the roller coaster of karma, up and down, up and down. But why don't you read the commentary, Raghu? This is a really nice one. You there? Oh, I think Raghu froze up on us. I thought he was finally listening to me. Oh, there you go.
Raghunath is so still.
I thought you were really listening.
Sorry, I was frozen.
Okay. Anyway, I won't repeat everything I said, but let's take just a quick look. I think you should read the commentary, but let's take a quick look at the Sanskrit in here of this verse. It says Sarva Bhutesh Vamangalam. Amangalam means inauspiciousness, right?
Amangalam, yeah.
Amangalam. Mangala means auspicious. Sarva Bhutesh Vamangalam. I don't bring any inauspiciousness into anyone's life. Sarva Bhutesh means like everyone. This is like the Bhagavad Gita that we're reading earlier from the 12th chapter, right? One who doesn't cause disturbance to anyone, right? If someone sees you and thinks, oh God, this is inauspicious, right? Oh, it's them.
Yeah.
The saintly person doesn't want to be that I only bring auspiciousness to you. I won't bring any inauspiciousness into your life. Sarva Bhutesh Vamangalam. And then Sama-darshana, because I see the equality. That's Sama-darshana, right? This Bhagavad Gita speaks a lot about Sama-darshana, the equal vision.
Even vision, yeah.
Yeah.
Like same, like drishti in yoga, we know drishti.
Yes.
And sama, like the word samadhi, like the word same. There's a sameness in your vision. And then sarva sukha, all happiness.
So that person gets sarva sukha dishaha. They see happiness in all directions. That's a good point. In other words, there's a sameness, a oneness on both levels. If I can see everyone on a level of oneness, on the spiritual level, in other words, if I can see past the bodies, which are always different, and relate to people on the basis of the soul, which is the same, then in my own life, all my different circumstances, which may appear very different, I can also see them as the same, right? Sunny day, rainy day, I see it as the same. I'm happy either way. Praise, or honor, dishonor, I can see them both the same. If I can see the oneness in people and treat them that way, then I'll be able to see a oneness in all my circumstances and be happy under any circumstance. So this is deep, and this is real, and this is the real code to happiness. It's not, let go of all. The only thing preventing, what that's saying, that kind of pleasure code talk, Raghunath? Yeah. It's saying you've been trying to indulge in the material world, but you're not happy. And the reason you're not happy is because people, religions, and other authority figures in your life have placed some sense of guilt in you. That's why you're not happy.
You got to release your guilt.
Yeah, yeah.
That's like a
This is
recipe
saying,
for like
yeah,
full on addiction.
yeah,
Try to indulge through your senses as much as you can. Good luck with that.
yeah. This is saying that that's not why you're not happy. It's because you're going down a path of emptiness, right? You're going down a path that satisfies the senses but does not satisfy the self. And so, no matter how far you go down that path, you're not going to find the key to pleasure that you're searching for.
You know, it's a great book that teaches this in a
What's that?
very beautiful way, in a very funny way, is Portrait of Dorian Gray.
I don't know.
You read that?
Raghunath, what is this? Portrait of Dorian Gray. No.
Oscar Wilde.
Okay.
It's a short read. You would love the book.
What?
It could be, and the person who is actually like the tempter of bad habit and bad choices is very clever and very funny, and he tempts this very innocent, beautiful person to start indulging in all degrading behavior.
Really?
Yeah, and in one sense, externally, the innocent person still looks beautiful, but what happens is he's swapped his soul for this portrait, and the portrait gets hidden, and then as he becomes degraded, the portrait himself becomes degraded. The face becomes
Oh,
haggard and
very
evil.
interesting.
You would and it's very funny, and
Mhm.
his temptations are with all half truths, you know. And you're like, and you could be like, oh yeah, that makes sense. That makes sense. That makes sense. But you can just see this
That's
innocent
a good way to
person
put it.
going down and down and
Yeah.
down until the very end when he's like actually murderous.
Oh, okay. Then
You
that's
would
when it
love
gets really interesting.
Yeah, Portrait of Dorian Gray. Get it on audio or whatever. It's one of my favorite
But but
books.
but I think you hit on something there by saying half truth, right? It's like you're not happy because you still have guilt in your life. No,
Sure.
that's you're not happy is the
And
true
the
part.
real interesting thing is, even without spirituality, even mundane happiness comes when you regulate the senses, comes when you're sattvic.
That's
Even
true.
if you don't believe in God, dive into the 14th chapter of the Bhagavad Gita, learn what it's like to become a sattvic person, how to be sense controlled, mentally controlled, regulated, non-envious, non-spiteful, never feel, get rid of your material ambition. If you have material ambition, you're not going to be peaceful, period. You have
You
to
know,
learn how to just like live super simply.
this is we'll read Prabhupada's commentary, but first let's read Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur's commentary.
Ooh, yeah, yeah.
He says the remarkable quality of satisfied desire is described. Okay, because we're just hearing about how desire is never satisfied.
Yeah.
No matter how much, ghee you pour on the fire, it's never satisfied, right? But now Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur is saying, here's the remarkable quality of satisfied desire. This is how this is how you become satisfied, right? It says, when one does not show hatred, amangalam, to other beings, even those who hate you, to those who do not show respect, but rather disrespect you, right? If you can not hate them, right? If you can respect them, even those who hate you, even those who disrespect you, all directions are blissful for the person who considers equally those who criticize or praise you.
Mm.
Sukhamayaha should be okay. And then there's just a technical thing he gives at the end of that. But that's here he's saying this is the remarkable quality of satisfied desire. It's when you can be kind, can be respectful, can even consider, in a sense, equally those that criticize you and those that praise you. The door to seeing happiness under any circumstance, in all directions, under any circumstances.
We have it all backwards.
We got it all backwards.
Did you just read this thing about the Russian devotees when the Russian devotees first became, when the Soviet Union fell and the wall came down and the Soviet Union, the devotees who've been living underground
Yeah.
and then caught by the KGB and tortured. And when they first got released, when the wall came down and the Soviet Union collapsed, the first devotees that went to Vrindavan, and they were greeted with this warm welcome, with flowers thrown at them, and them giving big feasts. And all the senior devotees of Vrindavan took all their devotees and took all their prasad and ate their remnants. Like very humble way, trying to serve all these Russian devotees who went through a decade at least of torture, of humiliation, of getting killed, of disappearing. And so when they came, they were like welcome to Vrindavan as heroes. And they they commented that, this is so dangerous. The worst, the Soviet Union and the KGB, the worst they could do is take our body. But here it is very dangerous. We can, with all this praise, when all this worship, with all this glorification we're getting, this can steal our bhakti. Because so it's like Queen Kunti was so intelligent, saying, "Let the calamities come again and again." Because we're always thinking of, whenever we're in trouble, we're thinking, oh God, oh Krishna, oh, I'm so dependent on you. But once I'm getting glorified for what I'm doing, then I think, oh, my life is so together. So finally people are appreciating me. It's a very delicate situation. And the interesting thing, it's almost as if we're instinctually looking for praise. It seems like instinctually we're looking for our ego to get stroked, and it will not satisfy. Our bank balance will not satisfy. As great as everything in the material world we can imagine it, that will leave you empty. The real thing that satisfies the heart is our deep connection. And so sometimes the pain in this world is to help us see the reality of material misery. The pain in this world is to help us see that. And so the devotee will welcome. It sounds crazy. Like Queen Kunti, we'll welcome distress. We'll welcome it. Why? Because at that time, I feel so connected. I feel so dependent. That's what yoga is. Yoga means to connect. It doesn't mean, now my mind, body, and people say this, my mind, body, and spirit are all. No. It's the soul is deeply connected with the divinity. And sometimes the accoutrements of success in the material world, the beauty, the strength, the wealth, the power, I start to forget, and I start to think, yeah, I've made some good choices. Yeah, I'm really fortunate. Yeah, everything's working in my favor. Yeah, I've got my life together. These people don't have their life together. And there's not a freedom anymore. That price comes with lots of other types of worry. The fear of losing my ego, of losing my power, wealth, strength, beauty. That's why smart people who have money, they give charity with their money. And that's why people who are very charismatic, they use their charm to bring people to higher levels of consciousness instead of degrading them. Or people who are of influence, use their influence for positive things. Or if they have whatever they have, they're trying to use it to serve the world instead of trying to be the center and cement themselves to that illusion. That's the dangers of good karma. That's the dangers of good fortune. Whew.
What you're saying was reminding me of this Nelson Mandela quote.
Tell me.
He said, "As my foot walked out the front door this is him leaving prison after so many years of being imprisoned,
Yeah.
He says, "As my foot walked out the front door towards the gate that will lead to freedom, it was clear to me that if my bitterness and hatred didn't go away, I would still be in prison."
Boom. Right?
Yeah.
You see people all the time, and they just are. Sometimes you really have to. We've created, that sounds so arrogant, but we have the good fortune of having such a beautiful community of people. That the people I deal with on a regular basis are people that are trying to work through their like mental baggage, and they struggle with it, and we comfort them and they comfort us, and we have just such a nice community. Once you step outside this community, I find you're dealing with people who are like steeped in hurt, pain, revenge. All you have to do is enter into a different community. I would notice that like when I was doing jujitsu on a regular basis. These are guys who have like trained their bodies to work without thinking, to defend, to strike, to attack without thinking. But you could hear in their voices that there are other things going on in their life. Or any other community, perhaps your family. Maybe you don't have a family that's so evolved. Or perhaps some other community you're part of, and hear the things they talk about, and you realize, oh man, you're still hung up on these. These are like the ABCs. Like, you can't speak ill of people. You
Right.
can't hold resentment towards people. You
Right.
can't find fault with people. You can't hold grudges with people. You can't look for spite with people. Yeah.
Got to let it go, which brings us back to our original nugget, right?
Okay. Do you want the commentary on this? On the
Well, I thought we may have run out of time, but we could
Oh,
read it
really?
if you like.
It starts off with a quote of Prabodhananda Saraswati. Prabodhananda Saraswati said, Vishvam Purna Sukhayate. When one becomes Krishna conscious by the mercy of Lord Chaitanya, for him the entire world appears happy, and he has nothing for which to hanker. Isn't that a great? That's great. On the Brahma Bhuta stage, or the platform of spiritual realization, there is no lamentation and no material hankering. Nasochati na kankshati. As long as one lives in the material world, actions and reactions will continue. But when one is unaffected by such material actions and reactions, he is to be considered free from the danger of being victimized by material desires. These symptoms of those who are satiated with lusty desires are described in this verse, as explained by Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. When one is not envious, even of his enemy, it does not expect honor from anyone, but instead desires all well-being. For his enemy, he is understood to be a paramahamsa, right? Not of this world. The paramahamsa is the supreme swan-like being, right? The swan is considered a magical bird, for they can go into the water, and suppose you pour milk, they could have the ability to separate the milk. If you pour the milk in the pond,
Yeah.
they can somehow drink the milk, but not drink the pond water. So the swan is like magical bird, and the analogy is that
Such good discernment, separating what's meaningful from what's unmeaningful in life.
yes, so he's the Paramahamsa, the supreme swan, who has fully subdued the lust desires for sense gratification.
Okay.
Even though you're walking around a world that's completely enticing, you realize, you know what? I'm not going to take the bait. I'm not going to take the bait. That is the takeaway today. Not going to take the bait. Not going to give me what I want.
Doesn't Mara have some more takeaways, though?
That's the takeaway.
That's it? Only that one?
That is the main takeaway. I'm not going to take the bait. Tattoo that, Mr. Kaustubha, right on your neck.
Don't take the bait.
You should get a tattoo before you die,
Why?
just to make a statement.
I can make statements without
Not
getting a
going to
tattoo.
take the bait.
My not getting a tattoo is making a statement.
Yeah, but that's not a statement.
Yeah,
do
but yeah, but it's not a statement.
Or at least get it in Mendi.
I've had some Mendi before.
Did you get Mendi?
Like when you go to Varshana and the lady comes out and she wants to stamp your hand with like a Mendi cow, things like that.
All right.
Been there, done that.
You ready for some more takeaways?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Picture of Dorian Gray, portrait of Dorian Gray, same thing.
Yeah. Okay. How well you have lived depends on how well you loved and let go.
Okay. That's right.
Are you listening to my
Look
takeaways
at him.
right
Look
now?
at him.
Sorts.
Look at him.
Googling.
Just
Googling.
leave me be.
Just shut it down on him, Mara. Just shut it down.
Just go and listen.
You're not listening. Even in conflict, behave with respect and love.
Okay.
Respect, Raghunath. Okay.
Okay.
Yeah, okay. Look at him.
He's looking up quotes from that book.
Quotes from the portrait of Dorian Gray.
Even the 1% experience humiliation, loss, grief, fear, and anxiety.
They do.
Yes. Yes.
Fulfilling material
You can say
desire-
anything right now,
I
Mara, and
know.
he's just
Yes.
yes.
Oh, yes.
Fulfilling material desires doesn't fill the emptiness of the self.
Oh, no.
If we're ruled by material desires, it's hard to live and love well.
Very difficult.
Mm-hmm.
You can have it all, but you've got to master the tightrope of loving and being detached.
The tightrope. Okay.
All the wealth cannot satisfy one who is lusty.
Mm.
To the degree we're trying to enjoy, we become selfish.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
The real pleasure code is to be equipoised and a well-wisher to everyone.
Tap into the pleasure codes.
The pain of this world is to help us see our connection with divinity.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
Selfishness never satisfies.
Okay.
Right.
And not going to take the bait.
Oh yeah.
Not gonna take Sarah. Went with that. Thanks for joining us, everybody. Hope we'll see you at the farm on Memorial Day weekend. Some people cruising up this weekend for a little party.
Is it 2 weekends away? Is that it?
Cock party.
Yeah.
2 weekends
What's
away. I'm
coming up?
so excited.
Yeesh.
Everything's looking beautiful.
Lilac.
It's lilac time. Yeah, I think it's going to be just in time for the peonies.